Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. You may have had that aspiration to write a book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. What's involved in that? Of course, coming up with the concept, the characters, the direction, hiring a publishing company to walk that journey with you. But also, there's marketing involved. You write a great book, you want people to read it. We are going to dig into the aspect of marketing your book today, starting with the publishing side of things. And he's provided so many great guests ever since we've gotten together with Marc Pogodzinski from NFB Publishing back with us. How you doing, Marc?
Good. How are you today?
Good. So we have somebody in the marketing expertise arena joining us. Who's that?
So we have Marc Freden with us today, who worked with a couple authors in the past from NFB, and he's an expert on how to market your book. You write this fantastic book. You put a lot of effort into it. You think you've got, something worthwhile. How do you dent the collective consciousness of your audience so they actually know who you are without spending an astronomical amount of money? And Marc is an expert in that realm.
Marc, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great having you here. And I love what we're doing today because not only do you help with the marketing of books, you're also an author, right? Tell us about that.
I am an author. I've written several adult books, as I like to call them. And I've written a couple of books that I'm marketing right now in innovative ways. They are Mike's Camera Action, which takes a look at how you use the medium and the media in so many different ways that you probably weren't thinking about. It looks at all the aspects of media: television, radio, social media, podcasting like yourself, and public speaking in new and different approaches. I've been 40 years boots on the ground in the entertainment and production aspect of my career. And these are anecdotes and actual experiences that look at the way we can use the media in so many different ways that the universities and the courses don't tell you about. And the second book is called Because Media Matters, and it's 20 key insights as to how you turn the person of you into the product of you, build a brand to get to your end goals. In this case, maybe selling a book.
So let's look at and this is great because these books, it's almost like we have an outline for this podcast using, the concept of the books. But the first book that you mentioned, Harnessing the Power of Media. And by the way,
Correct.
Side note, traditional media still alive and well. People think even radio. I do radio, been doing it since I was a kid. People don't listen. People walk up to me, I feel really bad for you. People aren't listening to radio. Yes, they are.
Exactly.
I see Nielsen ratings. It's real. People still do. They want that personal connection, that local connection. Yeah, I was the first one to get Spotify. It's almost like I competed against myself, but people still listen to radio. And when we even talk about TV, if it's not cable TV, it's streaming TV. So there's many choices.
That's the number one point I get all the time. I don't watch television anymore. You do. You watch it on your cell phone, you watch it on your computer, you watch it on your iPad. So you're still watching television. You're just watching it on a different product than you're normally thinking about with the big television set in the living room. You're still watching television.
Yep.
You ask people that don't watch television and you say, oh, did you see this show? Oh, yeah, I love that show. Well, guess what? You're watching television. What I try to bring to people's attention that are using the media, the Mike's Camera Action book is for anybody that needs the media, wants the media, or is thrust into the media spotlight, which happens more and more. And what I mean by that is people that are, for instance, a lawyer that has a high-profile client, that's done something good or bad and has to be a spokesperson for them, or they're facing crisis media in their own front. Their business has gone into a tailspin or has developed a product that is getting attention. Those people aren't necessarily prepared to use the media. But backing up, when people use social media, are they putting their best face forward? Are they putting their best self forward? And so I talk about things that seem almost obvious when you hear them, but did you think about it first? What are you wearing? What is your look? Where are you sitting when you do the interview? Have you ever been interviewed before? How do you stay on message when the questions come from the left or the right or face on? Were you prepared for that question? How do you reiterate the question in the answer and stay on message? I talk about across the board kind of marketing strategies and message strategies to keep your intentions alive and well and in the forefront.
And content is so huge now. There's so many different areas where you can promote your book. I want to talk about your TV background, if we met, because we're talking about TV right here.
Certainly.
Everything from MTV to shows on Bravo. Tell us about some of that.
Well, it would be too long to mention them all, but I've been in 40 years in the media. I've been in front of the camera. I did everything from extra to I was in Great Britain. I was one of the hosts, as it were, for the British equivalent of the Today Show or Good Morning America. So I was the wacky American on British morning television for a number of years. And I hold the distinction of being the first non-Brit to be, or foreigner as it were, to be contracted to a British news show in British television history.
Wow.
Go figure. So I did a lot of celebrity entertainment coverage for a number of years. I had to do hard news as well, but the crux of my on-camera experience was celebrity interviewing. But that's still news. That is still news. You have to be truthful, you have to be upfront, and you have to be on target with your news, because God knows you can be sued. But I spent 40 years also in the development. I helped start the development of E-Entertainment Television. I helped really develop Extra, the television show Extra, in its early days. I helped develop Reels in its second incarnation, the network Reels. But I've also been a developer of television. So a lot of what I've done for Bravo, Lifetime, CBS, ABC, NBC, all of these networks were production. I did television shows for them, but also I've pitched, developed, understood what it took to make a show cost effective and also creative. You know, people, the development people that you pitch to, their number one job is to say no, and your number one job is to get them to say yes. So where do those two conflict, and how do you make it happen? And two of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, one man said to me, "A good idea is forever. Its time might not be now." So if you've got a good idea and you've got a lot of no's behind it, those no's might be momentarily no's. They may be worthwhile to revisit next year or the year after, or morphed as the marketplace morphs along with them. The second thing I had was a man who said to me, I waited 9 months for a meeting with this man, and he didn't even look up from his desk as I walked in the door, and he said to me, "Marc, tell me your idea in 3 seconds." I said, 9 months for a meeting and I get 3 seconds? And I gave him the idea in 3 seconds, and he looked up and he went, "Okay, now sit down. Let's explore." And the reason he did that is he said, 3 seconds is all people want to hear. 3 seconds. If you can't sell it in 3 seconds, it's not an idea. And those resonated with me through my entire career. And that's what you get. You get short attention span theater when you're trying to market something. So be on point.
I just wrote a book. I really didn't, but I did. And I think it's a great book. People are loving it. It's getting great reviews. I got it going. Is there a chance that I'm going to get on some type of medium? And how can I do that?
I say you have to take a non-traditional approach. Times have changed. The bricks and mortar marketplace is Barnes and Noble now. But Amazon is a place to go for selling your book, obviously. But there's millions of books on Amazon. How do you get heard? I say you use the media. And again, using the media in clever and different ways. You can become an expert in the field of whatever. Let's say your book is fiction, right? But you need to be known as an expert in something that gets you noticed. And then people say to you, oh, who is this guy or this gal? And why should I pay attention to them? What else have they done? Oh, they wrote a book. That's interesting. Let me explore that aspect of them. So creating content that's tangential to the book, but leads them to the book can be a clever way to get you noticed and that get the book sold. You're going to run into pushback or blowback if you just get on TikTok and say, I wrote a book, therefore buy my book. People get annoyed by people that are doing the hard sell. It's clever ways to do the soft sell. And in fact, my books talk about how do you do the soft sell. Certainly because Media Matters. Media Matters tells you that you are no longer, once you get in the media, you are no longer a person. You are a product. That product creates a brand, and that brand gets you to the end result, your end goals, your end game. And if your end game is selling a book, you have to determine how that product of you is going to create a brand that is going to be a likable brand, a unique brand, and a brand that is marketable. And that is the trick behind it all. How does the brand of you sell books?
You think of all, even fiction, all the different franchises out there, Twilight trilogy, all of that, it became a brand. Yes, it started with a book. It started with an author. But look what it became. That's what I'm getting from you, that you need to create your universe.
You do. The Twilight books are a poor example in a sense because
thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
No, and I mean that in the best possible light.
I just picked anything. It could be any series.
The thing about the Twilight thing is she already had a following. She had a major following because she was doing it based on characters that were already established. And then when she wrote the Twilight books, she already had a following. So it's sort of unfair when you're actually not an established brand. That's when it's tough. If it's an established product like a cookbook, or let's use a cookbook as an example. A cookbook, you can do subject matter in TikTok or Reels or Instagram or something like that shows some recipes. So you show some ideas and some other things that show you as an expert. Or you can do things like restaurant reviews. Or you could do how to go out to dinner on $25. Or you could do other clever kinds of ways to establish you as an expert in the food world. And that makes you an interesting tangential expert that says, and by the way, go on my website for more information about me, and they see the cookbook. And that way you've sold them down the line to get to your website and they see a cookbook. And you could also say, hi, I'm Marc Freden. I'm the author of such and such a great cookbook. Tonight, we're going to look at such and such a restaurant and see how it compares. So you've introduced the notion that you have a cookbook, but you didn't say, go buy my cookbook, otherwise it's not worth watching this video. So there's tangential ways of marketing your cookbook. And if the cookbook gets successful, you could go on to a higher level. Do you market, is your bigger goal to make spaghetti sauce for sale? What's the bigger goal beyond the cookbook? So, ideas beget ideas. And the more you become successful, the more you've got to morph. But the key with all of this is you've got to create content that's plentiful. You can't just do one viral video and expect people to come, like, oh, I had 1 million viral videos. That's a rarity at best. You've got to create content that continues and continues and continues and continues, because you've got to feed the beast. You've got to give people what they want to see. If you do, if you only want to do 10 videos, you have to tell them, in this series of 10 videos, I'm going to do this. So people don't expect you to just disappear. They've got to be fed, and you've got to create a following because of it.
Do you always need some type of a hook to grab somebody? So we talk about the cookbook. The hook might be, and I'm just rolling hypothetical here, what do fruit roll-ups, peanut butter, sautéed mushrooms, and half a pound of ground beef have in common? It's dinner for your kids. They're going to love it. Here we go. Something like that.
I think you create a hook. You can absolutely, I say in my books, you got to get a gimmick. You gotta have consistency of something. You could say today's menu is, today's recipe is blah, blah, blah. Write in the comments something you want to see me cook, and I will do my spin on your desired meal. You can invite them in. The other thing is to listen and embrace the comments. Because, again, you are a product. You've got to not take the comments personally. You are a product. They are looking at the product of you. They're not looking at the person of you. Do not take things personally. But also, constructive criticism may make you pivot, may make you go in a direction you weren't expecting to go in. But the issue is, it takes you in a better position because you are now listening to what the audience wants to hear. And that drives marketability. That drives consistency for the viewer. That drives the ability to get them to look at you as an expert and obviously get you to your end game.
What about going viral? Now, we can create some of the best videos or reels, and you could be that writer of the cookbook, and you got you've created a niche. Maybe you're somebody that can make dinner using snacks, but it's a nutritious meal, whatever it might be, something that stands out. Aside from making the videos, how can you propel them out there so more people see them? And then with that also, how do we get the eyes of the media to connect with them?
Well, I think two things happen. Less can be more. If you get the right audience, the right demographic, and a key demographic, and you have 10,000 followers as opposed to 1 million followers, brands can actually tweak to that. They're called micro-influencers. And micro-influencers, if you have the right demographic, and they are specific demographics, an olive oil company, for instance, could turn around and say, you're reaching exactly the people we want. We're going to back you. And that can be fantastic. So don't think just because you haven't gotten a million viewers or 1 million likes that you are not a success. So pay attention to who's watching and who's paying you the kind of praise you need. Now, getting something to go viral, wouldn't we all love that? And there are services. I'm not advocating because, it's a hunt and peck situation. There are services that can help you specifically target demographics and so on down the line, but they cost money. And, if you don't have the money, you don't have that service. But having said that, again, making yourself an expert and then taking some of those expert validation videos and then going to media outlets, radio and television, and suggesting, don't let them do the work because they're not going to do it, but suggesting, here's a segment I think would work for you and your audience. This is what I'm offering to do for you, even via Zoom. Let's do that. That can be great marketing as well.
You mentioned services. So little side note here, peel the curtain back on radio. A lot of morning shows use show prep services, and they just have a team of people that grab a whole bunch of information and put it in one portal so that as a morning host or afternoon host, you log on, or the producer does, and they see, we could talk about this, we could talk about that. Oh, look at this, look at that. Why would you want to do that? Well, because that could be your recipe for the fruit roll-ups and all right in there. I would suggest, though, do a press release because there's a little bit of credibility with that. Anybody could do a press release, $100 done. A bunch of different services, but you may want to Google show prep, radio show prep services. They're going to put it all there together for you. And the bonus is just making minimal work for yourself. Hundreds, if not thousands, of radio stations and shows are going to see it. On the publishing side, Marc, what are your thoughts about all of this? I mean, you work with everything from the marketing to the cover to the editing, the copywriting. Your initial thoughts here?
Marketing.
I meant Marc with a K.
Oh,
Yes.
Marketing is tough, and that's why, Marc Freden, when he comes, he brings a lot of energy, brings a lot of ideas that are not. They don't occur to most authors that I work with. Most authors have trouble with social media. They might be introverts by nature. They might have difficulty speaking. Like one part of Marc's book is simply public speaking, making eye contact, making a connection with the audience. That needs to be taught even to adults who have careers, but they've never actually been in a public speaking type scenario. And they write this book, and it might be just a library who call and say, hey, we got 10 people. We want to read your book. Would you mind coming to speak to them? And sometimes I will get an email like, I'm terrified. What do I say? Well, that's where an expert comes in. That's where you can read about how to make eye contact, how to scan the room, how to pick out people in the room so you hit everyone in terms of eye contact, voice, crack a joke, whatever it may be. So the marketing is an essential aspect for selling the book, and we try the best we can, but I'm not an expert in marketing. That is not where my expertise lies, and that's why people like Mr. Freden, they come along and they're incredibly helpful.
We're almost out of time. I look up, I'm like, I can keep going here. It's like so insightful and interesting. Marc with a C. Anything to add here, as we close things out?
Well, I think that you have to be aggressive, but you also have to be creative. Think outside of the box. You are I say this all the time. You are not the next Kardashian. You are the very first you. What makes you unique? What makes you an individual? What makes you valuable in the marketplace? Think about you as a product. And the truth of the matter is, you have end goals, find the clever way to do it, and keep the content coming.
Again, your books, and can we find them on Amazon? The titles, please.
You can, in fact, find them on Amazon. And very soon, I'm going to have a series of 10 masterclasses available on my website, which is being built. Should be finished actually today, thank God. And the masterclasses are being produced as we speak. And but the books are available again. One is called Mike's Camera Action, and the second companion book is called Because Media Matters.
And one little thing here I just want to drop in. Marc with a K has helped Marc with a C in the formatting of books, which I didn't even know.
Yes, he has been a great help.
So what does that mean, Marc with a K?
So sometimes like writers have the book already written, it's formatted in a certain way, but it's not publishable. So I get it, I reformat it so that it lays like a book. I help Mr. Freden with the covers based on his desires and wants and needs, and we're able to build a cover to his specifications. So it's not me publishing the book, it's me putting the book together so it can be published.
Wow, learned a lot today. Thank you both, nfbpublishing.com. And for Marc's books, you can find him, just Google MarcFreden. Marc and Marc, thank you very much for being here today. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.